And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this third day of March 2020. And today we have a very special segment and a very severe weather warning coming up right after this first news, which we have is the news of Western Australia opening its borders. So let's see how it's going to look.
Border have begun reuniting as the state's border reopens to interstate and overseas travellers after nearly 700 days. The first flights, one from Sydney and one from Singapore, landed at Perth Airport just after midnight local time. About 5,000 people are expected to pass through the arrival gates in the first 24 hours. Anyone entering WA must complete a G2G pass and undergo a rapid test within 12 hours of arrival. Overseas travellers need to be double jabbed in line with federal government requirements. Returning Australians who are not vaccinated must complete 7 days of hotel quarantine. WA's hard border was previously scheduled to fall on February 5, but it was delayed because of the spread of Omicron.
Been in Africa for a year, unable to come home.
He's got my two lovely grandchildren here, and so it's the first time I've been able to come over and see them in about 2 years.
I'm just overwhelmed. It's amazing. Yeah, it's just looking forward to it for so long. So I didn't think it'd be 2 years since I dropped you off at life. Now I see you again. So
yes.
Amazing.
There were some extraordinary scenes there of the Western Australia border that's opening. Well, right now, as I had mentioned before, that today we have for you a very, very special weather report because we are coming into a very, very severe weather condition. So this is a public alert. So public safety alert, please say this is from the Bureau of Meteorology, and the Bureau is warning Southeast Queensland residents that severe storms and flash flooding will really ramp up on Thursday afternoon, bringing possible 125 kilometers per hour damaging wind gusts and a giant 5-meter hailstone amid fears of a supercell which is forming now. Severe storms are producing damaging wind gusts up to 90 kilometers per hour, and up to 2 centimeters of hail will likely hit the southeast over the next several hours. However, a supercell may arise from these storms, causing extremely dangerous wind gusts reaching up to 125 kilometers per hour, and the giant hail measuring more than 5 centimeters, so that will be huge. BOM, which is the Bureau of Meteorology, atmospheric scientist Brooke Pagel said any rainfall is likely to lead to flash flooding over the southeast due to the already saturated catchments. However, if the supercell hits, that flooding would become life-threatening. Severe storms likely to produce damaging 90 kilometers per hour winds, large hail, heavy rainfall, leading to flash flooding are possible over the next several hours, but also throughout the day. There is a high risk of dangerous conditions if a supercell develops, producing destructive wind gusts over 125 kilometers per hour, giant hail over 5 centimeters, and intense rainfall causing life-threatening flash flooding. Because the catchments are already saturated, which I've said before, from our rainfall, flash flooding is a real concern today, because even if we don't get much rainfall, it will still lead to the river overflowing. The whole of southeast Queensland remains in the firing line, with the widespread system predicted to trek in an easterly or southeasterly direction. Because of the way the weather system is set up at the moment, all of southeast Queensland is at a risk. So there you are, ladies and gentlemen, that don't take that lightly. This is very extreme weather condition, and if you can, please take care and prepare for it from now. Make sure you've got supplies and whatever is needed. Look, even if it's not as heavy as it is always good to be prepared. Who knows? It could be worse. It could be what it has been predicted to be, because that's nature. And as our Premier said the other day, we can't control Mother Nature. But what is in our hands is now that the warnings being issued to be prepared. make sure that we do what we need to so that we are protected and that, we have taken all the necessary precautionary measures. Well, right now, here's the report on the Queensland flood, which might not drop for a week.
Desperate flood victims returning home, exhausted and heartbroken, a lifetime of memories reduced to rubble. Mary Neve has lost just about everything in her Yeronga home.
It's just really hard, and it's just, I'm struggling with it, if I'm honest. I'm really struggling because I just want to get back in.
She knows the hard work ahead because she's been here before.
But I'm just praying with all my heart that I can somehow get through quickly because, it's hard.
In Graceville, roadways have become a tip. Police are pitching in.
This is our first time and it's a lot quicker than we thought. We were told once every 30 years and we're now, it's happened in 11.
Suburb after suburb, filth, debris and sewage.
It's really thick on the streets, like there's multiple sewer manholes around that have popped off and there is just toilet paper everywhere, so not nice.
The Lord Mayor has ordered a three-pronged approach for the suburbs.
Curbside clean-up has started. There is food waste bins available for rotting food that needs to be disposed of and free tipping at our transfer stations.
But people are still in shock.
We're just praying and that was it.
And there's growing anger.
It's just really heartbreaking. I just feel like we just didn't have any warning. If we had had warning, we could have put stuff up.
This was an extraordinary rain event, the likes of which we haven't seen and you've seen across the state where many records have been broken.
The Premier says there'll be an independent report into the catastrophe. One thing's for certain, it will be costly. There's been more than 40,000 insurance claims so far. They doubled in the last 2 days. Now, people are being told don't wait for an assessor to turn up before you throw out your flood damaged goods, but you must document what you've lost.
My message is just simply get a photograph.
Insurers say it is possible the damage bill could exceed the 2011 disaster, surpassing $1 billion.
We are going to be repairing homes that we repaired 3 or 4 times.
As the heavy lifting begins in earnest.
A big job, just got to get in and get it done.
There's a nervous eye on the skies with more thunderstorms predicted.
We are not over all of this yet, we're not out of the woods.
Not by a long shot, a sign we could all use in tough times like these. Lexi Hamilton-Smith, ABC News, Brisbane.
The Lord Mayor indicated today that these floods have reached further across the city than those that hit Brisbane in 2011. We cross now to Kate McKenna in another of those suburbs hit hard by the floods, Deagon on Brisbane's north side. Kate, talk us through what you've seen there.
Well, Matt, these streets in Deagon were really hit by a deluge of water on Sunday. Now, the floodwaters have receded here, but just to give you a picture of how high they came on Sunday night, locals say it almost reached this street sign beside me. So a huge volume of water, and residents here recall travelling up and down in tinnies, checking on neighbours, ferrying them to safer ground. One man we spoke to this afternoon said he had up to 18 people plus pets sheltering in his home for the night. Residents here are conscious it has impacted them differently. For example, one person has lost a caravan, another person says they've lost almost everything. The clean-up here began on Monday and has continued ever since. And you might be able to see the mounds of ruined possessions piled up outside houses behind me. And one man estimates his damage bill for his home could hit $250,000 plus another $100,000 in lost contents. So much loss just in this area. And we know that many parts of the southeast will be feeling the same pain tonight, Matt.
Yeah, we're seeing it in suburb after suburb. Kate McKenna in Deagon, thank you. Flooding is causing major food shortages across Queensland, leaving supermarket shelves bare. Reporter Louisa Rebget's caught up with a wholesaler who suffered significant damage.
I'm here at the Brisbane Market. It's a huge distribution centre for fruit and vegetables across Queensland, and I'm joined by one of the suppliers here, Graham Twine from Suncoast Fresh. Graham, what kind of flooding did you experience?
It was horrific. It was this much under 2011, and I don't think any of us were expecting it, as you'll see from this huge mess that we're about to go for a little walk through. And it took a lot of us by surprise.
So you talked about the damage. Let's have a quick look at it. What can we see here?
You can see office furniture, you can see fridges, you can see produce, you can see packaging, everything you need to run a distribution centre for fruit and vegetables. So it's, but you can also see, there's a great team of people around here as well, doing some really fantastic work, and these sort of things, these tragedies bring us Queenslanders together, I think.
So you supply fruit and vegetables to places across the state. Yep. What kind of losses are you going to experience?
There's hundreds of thousands, I suppose, here. So there's that loss, but and it is very tragic. And just the wastage. There's a lot of effort that goes into growing these beautiful produce. All the work that has already gone into this. You just don't ever get that back, and that's really, really tragic. I've had a lump in my throat a lot of the day.
We're experiencing a few supply issues at the moment. What can consumers expect over the next week or so?
It'll recover a lot quicker than what you think. The supply chain's opening up. Really, it was the floods over the roads that were holding a lot of stuff back. It'll start to come on now. They've cleaned the trading floor. The Brisbane Market's done a great job. They've cleaned that, so we can start to get stuff to the shops and out. So we'll be distributing to far north Queensland as early as tomorrow. So we'll be back on track very, very quickly.
Graham Twine, thank you very much for talking to us.
My pleasure.
Good luck with the clean-up.
Thank you.
And hopefully people will start seeing some more fruit and vegetables on their shelves soon.
Hundreds of residents across Logan are stranded in homes as floodwaters slowly subside. At least 60 properties are flooded, many without power. But the community is rallying to help those in need.
The SES is playing a big role in the wedding of Karen Herring's daughter.
They brought the wedding dress over for me yesterday, and now they brought my parents over so they can attend the wedding. So we owe them a carton of beer.
Rod Barnes just wanted to make sure his mate had enough in the fridge.
I'm taking me mate shopping. He's sort of stuck, as you can see.
Tinnies, kayaks and jet skis are being put to good use, ferrying supplies to residents stranded at Waterford West. There are even refreshments for anyone who wants them.
We just have some Sunkist and Solo.
What did that fella say before when you gave him a drink?
Oh, he just said his house is all under and he was very thankful for all this.
The Logan River peaked at 11.5 metres yesterday, higher than the 2017 flood.
The telephone poles are underwater, so that means it's about 6 metres underwater.
A vast brown sea has swallowed parts of Tenamera, Loganholme and Waterford West, including Laurie Fry's 5-acre property from fence to fence.
Okay at the moment, trying not to cry.
Lack of sleep, moving friends' furniture out, moving people out of their homes. It's pretty rough.
So far, 59 properties are known to have flooded in Logan, but that number's likely to rise. Many people haven't been able to get home to check the damage, as hundreds of roads are cut off. An evacuation centre remains open at Crestmead.
Some tough days ahead. Some people have lost a lot of things.
More than 3,000 Logan properties are without power, but people are being recharged by community spirit.
Always good to have mates, especially ones with boats in times like these.
The recovery will be a long road ahead. Toby Jers-Lewis, ABC News, Logan.
Let's bring in Jenny Woodward for an early look at the weather. Jenny, some storms on the way already. What?
Yes, Matt, they've been popping up through the southeast this afternoon. Hello, everyone. Now, the Bureau issued a warning at about 5 o'clock. Now, currently, it includes the Western Downs, Toowoomba Council area, up into Wide Bay and across to the southeast coast, although not right across to the coast. There's a risk of damaging winds and large hail, and it might reach the Brisbane area later tonight. And this is just the start of a spate of stormy days. There's a risk of widespread falls of 20 to 80 millimetres coming up, and there's also the chance of 100 to 200 millimetres if you're right under the storm. There's the potential for supercells in the mix as well. A flood watch is current across the southeast with some big totals possible over the next 4 days. We've got the risk of riverine flooding, flash flooding in the saturated conditions. Sadly, it's not the forecast anyone is looking for, and I'll be back with the storm update and statewide details later in the bulletin, Matt.
OK, Jenny, see you then. Hopefully the storms missed those.
And so that's the update there. As I've mentioned before, that please take care. and make sure that all your precautionary measures have been taken place. You've got enough supplies to last you a couple of days. You might not need it, but it's always good to be prepared as that supercell is forming. And of course, this is Mother Nature, as our Premier said before as well. You can't fight Mother Nature. All you can do is deal with it, and how you deal with it. Of course, the anger of some of the residents, that if they had enough warning, they would have done something. I think the authorities have been caught a little bit by surprise. They knew this was all coming, but they did not realize how widespread it would be, and the extent and the severe force of it. So it just came down. At the moment, while we've got a little bit of breathing space, as the storm and all the rain has sifted down south where it's battering, and we know that many other areas are bracing up for floods, and there are many parts of New South Wales which is already flooded. The message is very, very clear. Please make sure that you are prepared. So here's a look at what's going to be happening in New South Wales.
We have currently 500,000 people across our state who are subject to either one of those warnings or one of those orders. If you are subject to one of those evacuation warnings, please get ready. Please ensure that you are ready to evacuate. If you are subject to one of those evacuation orders, please get out. Those instructions are not there for the sake of it. They're there to keep you and your family safe. And I want to thank everybody for following those orders, because not only do they keep you safe, importantly they keep our volunteers safe who are on the front line ensuring that everybody is looked after during this difficult time. So can I thank everybody for the efforts that they are making in following those orders. In addition to that, we do believe that things will get worse right before they get better here in our state. We'll have the Bureau speak shortly, but we do expect, particularly in the Hawkesbury region, that the floods will be worse than they were last year, and that we see more torrential rain and flooding in Newcastle and Hunter over the course of the day.
So right now, let's take a look at Hawkesbury River in Richmond. And now we'd go cross over to Lismore.
Essentially, the flood hit its peak on Monday morning here in Lismore, and a couple of days later in the surrounding areas of Ballina, Corrockeye, Woodburn, etc. There's been a lot of mud slips, landslides all around, but we sort of went out Monday morning and were sort of organising, or trying to organise the cruise, the jet skis and boats in and around sort of the dry landed spots in Lismore, and sending jet skis out to houses where elderly couples were in the roofs, stuck for up to 10 hours with floodwater up to their necks. So we've been integral in organising these things on Monday, so that hundreds of people were rescued almost before the army came in around 3:34 in the afternoon on Monday. So it's been quite a concerted effort by locals, and if the community didn't step up, we might have had far more casualties than we're actually seeing now here in Lismore.
And how was it emotionally for you to be going out there, and when people see you arriving and know that you're helping them? It must have been an incredible feeling.
Yeah, so mostly I was on land on Monday, and I went out in a tinny and looking for doing calls, looking for people who were unaccounted for on Tuesday, and looking for pets and animals. Lots of people who arrived on Monday that I saw. A specific elderly couple were absolutely ecstatic. I was actually on the phone to their daughter as they arrived, so she broke out in tears. But this is an absolute catastrophe. At the moment, we are running out of diesel. We are out of diesel fuel in the surrounding areas. We are out of unleaded. Food is stripped on the shelves. We need support. This $1,000 payment from the government will only go so far. For the next few days, we need actual support on the ground here. We need armies. We need petrol coming in, because because this cleanup is going to be devastating. Here, right above my head, is where even further. There's the 1974 level just over there. Right above my head, the floodwaters went through. It was absolutely devastating, similar to the Grantham inland tsunami that hit in Queensland in 2011, I believe it was. Inland tsunami came through Lismore essentially and devastated South Lismore, North Lismore, and then proceeded to flood the CBD and the surrounding suburbs.
Good on him for going out there and doing what he did. That is even in the face of this adversity, that would have given him satisfaction. Just seeing the people that someone's actually come to rescue us. So ladies and gentlemen, there's so much more that we're going to cover, but the main point is about that weather warning, which we really need to keep an eye on, and I will repeat that before we close up the segment for today. Right now it's time to go to our daily India report. With that, let's welcome Himanshu.
Welcome to the Daily India Report, which brings you glimpses of the changing India. In our first story, as India steps up evacuation efforts, Prime Minister Narendra Modi talks with leaders from France, Poland, Hungary and the European Union. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi held a dialogue with leaders from France, Poland, Hungary and the EU. India is trying to explore with Russia the possibility of safe passage for evacuees through the eastern Ukraine-Russia border. Prime Minister Narendra Modi spoke with the French President Emmanuel Macron on the Ukraine crisis to seek ways to diffuse tensions. Modi's discussions with leaders from Central Europe are focused on providing transit for the students. India sent 2 tons of humanitarian aid, including tents, blankets, surgical gloves, protective eye gear, water storage tanks, sleeping mats, tarpaulin and medicines to Ukraine. In conversation with His Excellency Andrzej Duda, President of Poland, Prime Minister Modi warmly thanked him for the assistance provided by Poland in the evacuation of Indian citizens from Ukraine and for the special gesture of relaxing visa requirements for Indian citizens crossing over to Poland from Ukraine. He expressed his particular appreciation for the warm reception and facilitation extended by Polish citizens to Indian nationals during this difficult time. Indian Prime Minister also had a conversation on phone with His Excellency Charles Michel, President of the European Council, and expressed his anguish over the deteriorating situation and humanitarian crisis in Ukraine. He reiterated India's appeal for cessation of hostilities and a return to dialogue. Prime Minister Modi stressed that the contemporary global order was anchored on international law, the UN Charter, and respect for the territorial integrity and sovereignty of all states. He also stressed the importance of ensuring free and uninterrupted humanitarian access and the smooth movement of all people. While talking, Prime Minister of India also informed about efforts being made by India to send urgent relief supplies, including medicines, to the affected areas. The US has received enough petitions needed to reach the mandated 65,000 H-1B visa cap for the fiscal year 2022. A US federal agency said that it has received a sufficient number of petitions needed to reach the congressionally mandated cap for the H-1B visa for the fiscal year 2022. This comes a day before the US Citizenship and Immigration Services will formally start accepting petitions for fiscal 2023, which will start from October 1st, 2022 for the agency. The agency will accept applications from March 1st to March 18th, 2022. This year, the USCIS had to conduct 3 visa lotteries in order to meet the mandated cap of 65,000 regular visas and 20,000 under the master's cap. In the previous year too, the agency had conducted 2 lotteries, which was a departure from the norm. Normally, the USCIS receives enough applications after the first round of selections is done. In July 2021, the US Immigration Agency had conducted a second random selection as it hadn't received enough applications after the first lottery. The US CIS follows an October to September year, and applicants selected for FY 2022 would be eligible to start work from October 2022. In November, it said it would be conducting the third lottery in order to reach its target. Immigration lawyers attributed this to fewer employers going through with their applications after being selected, with employees continuing to work remotely. Earlier, the agency had said that it had received 275,000 petitions for FY 2021, about 67% of which were from Indian applicants. However, once the travel and business shutdowns went into effect in April 2020 on account of the COVID-19 pandemic, several employers did not go through with their visa filings, said lawyers. In the last few years, Indian companies have been reducing the proportion of workers they employ on H-1B visas, even as American tech companies have been increasing the number of people they bring into the country on these visas. An often cited reason is the shortage of highly skilled tech talent in the country. Through the pandemic, the unemployment rates for technology roles have remained low, pointing to the high demand that exists in this space. As part of Operation Ganga, India has successfully evacuated all Indian nationals from Kyiv, while nearly 60% of Indians in Ukraine have left the country so far. India's Foreign Secretary Harshvardhan Shringla said all Indian citizens have left Kyiv, the capital city of Ukraine, under attack by Russian troops. He also said that 60% of total Indian nationals have returned from Ukraine. According to the Ministry of External Affairs, an estimated 20,000 Indian students were present in Ukraine when the first advisory was issued, and 12,000 of them have since left the country. Foreign Secretary Shringla said that of the remaining 40%, roughly half remain in conflict zones in Kharkiv, Sumy, and the other half have either reached the western borders of Ukraine or are heading towards the western part of Ukraine, which is considered to be a safer place. The Foreign Secretary said that the high-level meeting began with an expression of deep regret and condolences on the tragic death of Naveen Shekharappa, the Indian student who was studying at Kharkiv National Medical University. The Prime Minister conveyed his deep anguish at the loss of the life of an Indian national, he said. According to MEA, over the next 3 days, 26 flights have been scheduled to evacuate citizens. Apart from Bucharest and Budapest, airports in Poland and the Slovak Republic will also be used. Due to the Russia-Ukraine war, the export demand for Indian wheat, corn and spices has increased in the global market. The export demand for Indian wheat, corn and spices has shot up after Russia launched a military operation against Ukraine, forcing the international trade of agricultural commodities to shift sourcing to India, since supplies from the two nations have come to a grinding halt. Most of the wheat stock in India is held by the government agency FCI, which is not exporting the commodity. Wheat traders want the FCI to release more wheat into the market, which will help keep domestic prices under control, reduce excess stocks and also meet the export demand. However, the processing industry is worried. Apart from wheat, the demand for Indian corn has increased as buyers from India's neighborhood shifted from Ukraine to India. Prices of spices have also increased due to local shortages and strong global demand. Jeera prices have jumped 25 to 30% in 4 months due to reduced production and geopolitical factors. India is now the only prominent jeera supplier, as supplies from countries such as Afghanistan, Turkey and Syria have been disturbed due to geopolitical reasons. Strong export demand for cotton, yarn, fabric and ready-made garments has made the local spinning mills consume more cotton. Millers said that an unprecedented increase of about 65% in domestic cotton prices from about rupees 135 per kg in February 2021 to rupees 219 per kg in February 2022 has posed a challenge to exporters in meeting their commitments. To meet the strong export demand, the South Indian Mills Association has asked the government to allow the import of 4 million bales of cotton. The poultry industry is gearing up to ensure that prices of soya bean, which is used as chicken feed, remain under control. Indian Border Security Force has set up CCTV surveillance system along the India-Bangladesh border in the Assam state. Indian Border Security Force has come up with CCTV surveillance systems along the Indo-Bangladesh border in the Assam state. Sanjay Singh Gehlot, Inspector General of BSF Guwahati Frontier, visited the border outpost at Indo-Bangladesh and inaugurated a CCTV surveillance system. The CCTV surveillance system is installed with a command and control system to monitor all the activities going on at the border in order to enhance round-the-clock surveillance to control various border crimes. In view of the vulnerability of the border and heightened activities of the smugglers and anti-national elements, BSF has placed a CCTV surveillance system that will help the border men to vigil the border during the day and night to curb smuggling and border crimes on the Indo-Bangladesh border. The teaser of the upcoming Telugu movie Rama Rao on Duty has been released. The movie starring Ravi Teja in the lead role is helmed by debutant director Sarath Mandava. The teaser of Ravi Teja's Rama Rao on Duty is unveiled, introducing the audience to Rama Rao. The director has used a generous amount of footage to emphasize the hero's ability to write with both hands simultaneously. He can simultaneously write with both hands while sitting at his desk. He can do this even while traveling in a car. He also can write with one hand and use a typewriter with the other hand. The ambidexterity of the lead character seems to be the highlight of his personality, which otherwise seems like a typical larger-than-life archetype with nerves of steel and a heart of gold. Besides Ravi Teja, the film also stars Divyansha Kaushik, Rajisha Vijayan, Venu Thotampudi, Nasir, Naresh, Pavitra Lokesh, Sarpatta John Vijay, Chaitanya Krishna, Tanikela Bharani, Rahul Ramakrishna, Irojullu Sri, Madhusudan Rao and Surekha Vani. That's all for this bulletin of Daily India Report.
For that report, thank you very much, Himansu, for that report. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that public safety alert from Bureau of Meteorology, which is warning southeast Queensland residents that severe storms and flash flooding will really ramp up on Thursday afternoon, bringing possible 125 kilometers per hour damaging wind gusts and giant hailstorms up to about 5 centimeters, amid fears of a supercell which is forming. Severe storms producing damaging wind gusts up to 90 kilometers per hour and hail up to about 2 centimeters will likely hit southeast over the next several hours. So next several hours and leading into the afternoon today. However, a supercell may arise from these storms, causing extremely dangerous wind gusts reaching 125 kilometers per hour and giant hail which could measure up to 5 centimeters. Bureau of Meteorology atmospheric scientist Brooke Pagel also says that the rainfall is likely to lead to flash flooding over the southeast due to the already saturated catchments. However, if the supercell hits, the flooding would become life-threatening. So, ladies and gentlemen, once again, if you can, get to safety as soon as you can, even though you might look outside and say, well, nothing's happening at the moment. This is what they call the calm before the storm. So prepare yourself now, and do take the precautionary measures, with your workplace, with your workmates, with everyone around you. Check with your friends and family if everyone's safe. And if anyone is at risk, please inform them to get to safety and make sure that you don't have loose items on your decks, especially if you are in a high-rise building. Make sure things are tied down and secure, and that you have enough supplies. Make sure you've got matches, candles, and the likes, just in case the power goes off. So basically the idea is to be prepared. be prepared in a times like this. So ladies and gentlemen, don't forget this warning which is coming from the Bureau of Meteorology, and if they further say there is a high risk of dangerous condition if a supercell develops, producing destructive winds of over 125 kilometers per hour and the giant hail. Because the catchment is already saturated from the rainfall, flash flooding is a real concern today, because even if we don't get much rain, it will still lead to flooding. The whole of southeast Queensland remains in the firing line, with the widespread system predicted to trek in an easterly and southeasterly direction. Because of the way the weather system is set up at the moment, all of southeast Queensland is at risk. So there you are. Don't take the warnings lightly. Take the precaution, and if nothing happens, well and good. At least you were prepared. But the worst thing is getting a warning and not doing anything and not being prepared. So, ladies and gentlemen, this has been a very special broadcast of Australian Indian Radio on the 3rd of March 2022 with this very severe weather warning patterns. Until tomorrow, it's goodbye from me. If there be another need, we can come back live later in the day. Otherwise, we will see you tomorrow at 10 a.m.